Welcome to Evermore Stories. I forgot how to start. Oh, I'm Erin.
I'm Alex.
And today I'm going to be reading from the Yellow Fairy book, and the story is The Dragon of the North. This one's quite a page turner, because there's a lot of pages. Okay. Very long ago, as old people have told me, there lived a terrible monster. I'm guessing it's the dragon. Okay. Who came out of the north and laid waste whole tracts of country, devouring both men and beasts. Women are fine. That wasn't part of the story, but it didn't add in women. So. And this monster was so destructive that it feared that unless help came, no living creature would be left on the face of the earth. It was weird, okay. It had a body like an ox and legs like a frog, 2 short forelegs and 2 long ones behind. And besides that, it had a tail like a serpent, 10 fathoms in length. What is a fathom lengthwise? Like measurement. What's a fathom measurement? Because it says it's 10 fathoms long.
Oh. I'm not old-timey enough, I guess.
I need this Americanized.
Right.
How many feet is that?
Okay.
Okay.
Many football fields?
How many football fields per beer can? Okay. Where was I? Okay, 10 fathoms in length. When it moved, it jumped like a frog, and with every spring, it covered half a mile of ground.
Holy shit. Sounds awful.
So you can't run. Unless you can run more than half a mile.
It can't be like a soft landing.
It lands like a cat. You can't even, you can barely hear it. You're like, the ground is just.
I don't know.
That's it landing.
My cat just like runs into walls.
Okay, where was I? Half a mile ground. Fortunately, its habit was to remain for several years in the same place, and not to move on till the whole neighborhood was eaten up. So it does a whole village. It takes a whole village to feed this thing, literally. Okay. Nothing could hunt it because its whole body was covered with scales, which were harder than stone or metal. Its 2 great eyes shone by night, and even by day like the brightest lamps, and anyone who had the ill luck to look into those eyes became as it were bewitched, and was obliged to rush of his own accord into the monster's jaws. This is like the basilisk from Harry Potter, except it's like you look into its eyes and you kill yourself. You don't die. You do it to yourself.
It's like, yeah, now's a good time to go.
In this way, the dragon was able to feed upon both men and beasts without the least trouble to itself, as it needed not to move from the spot where it was lying. All the neighboring kings had offered rich rewards to anyone who should be able to destroy the monster, either by force or enchantment, and many had tried their luck, but all had miserably failed. Once a great forest in which the dragon lay had been set on fire. The forest was burnt down, but the fire did not do the monster the least harm. However, there was a tradition among the wise men of the country that the dragon might be overcome by one who possessed King Solomon's signet ring, upon which a secret writing was engraved. This inscription would enable anyone who was wise enough to interpret it to find out how the dragon could be destroyed. How big is this ring that it's got like a description of how to kill a dragon on it?
Maybe it's like, in Santa Claus, when they have to pull out those hella magnifying glasses. In the Santa Claus too.
That's why you have to be wise enough to read it, because you have to find some magnifying device that can magnify a ridiculous amount. You look in, it's like a book. Okay.
Yep. That works.
Only no one knew where the ring was hidden, nor was there any sorcerer or learned man to be found who would be able to explain the inscription. How do they know if they don't know what the inscription, like what language it's in?
Learned man, like a scholar?
Yeah, learned man. They didn't have scholars back then.
Like everyone
learning was a new invention at the time. So you weren't a scholar yet, because that wasn't invented. You were a learned man.
They probably look at this beast and it's like, yes, that tail is 10 fathoms long. And
yeah.
They knew.
They see it, they just know because they're learned.
Right.
At last, a young man with a good heart and plenty of courage set out to search for the ring. He took his way towards the sun rising because he knew that all the wisdom of old time comes from the east. I'm curious. I'm curious as to why. Okay. After some years, he met with a famous Eastern magician and asked for his advice in the matter. The magician answered, "Mortal men have but little wisdom and can give you no help, but the birds of the air would be better guides to you if you could learn their language. I can help you to understand it if you will stay with me a few days."
Who said this?
The Eastern magician, he pretty much said, "Men are dumb, ask the birds." That's what he said in modern language. The youth thankfully accepted the magician's offer and said, "I cannot now offer you any reward for your kindness, but should my undertaking succeed, your trouble shall be richly repaid." Then the magician brewed a powerful potion out of 9 sorts of herbs, which he had gathered himself all alone by moonlight, and he gave the youth 9 spoonfuls of it daily for 3 days, which made him able to understand the language of birds. So pretty much he drugged him, and now he thinks he's talking to birds. At parting, the magician said to him, "If you ever find Solomon's ring and get possession of it, then come back to me, that I may explain the inscription on the ring to you, for there is no one else in the world who can do this." Didn't they just say before how there's no one who knew how to do this except for me?
Wait, is it not a learned man doing it?
No. This is a random courageous guy.
Oh.
Is people in the East are way smarter than you idiots. So then he goes to this magician, and the magician's like, "Hey, people are dumb. Talk to the birds after I poison you for 3 days." And then he's like, "When you find the ring after you talk to these birds, and these birds tell you where it is, come back to me, and I can read it for you." Pretty much. That's what he said. Okay. From that time the youth never felt lonely as he walked along. He always had company because he understood the language of birds, and in this way he learned many things which mere human knowledge could never have taught him. But time went on, and he heard nothing about the ring. It happened one evening, when he was hot and tired with walking, and had sat down under a tree in a forest to eat his supper, that he saw 2 gaily plumaged birds that were strange to him, sitting at the top of the tree talking to one another about him. The first bird said, "I know that wandering fool under the tree there, who has come so far without finding what he seeks. He is trying to find King Solomon's lost ring." The other bird answered, "He will have to seek help from the witch maiden, who will doubtless be able to put him on the right track if she has not got the ring herself. She knows well enough who has it." Those are my bird voices.
They're very bird.
Thank you. I tried.
"But where is he to find the witch maiden?"
said the first bird.
"She has no settled dwelling, but is here today and gone tomorrow. He might as well try to catch the wind."
The other replied,
"I don't know certainly where she is at present, but in 3 nights from now she will come to the spring to wash her face, as she does every month when the moon is full, in order that she may never grow old nor wrinkled, but may always keep the bloom of youth."
"Well," said the first bird,
"the spring is not far from here. Shall we go and see how it is she does it?"
"Willingly, if you like,"
said the other. He's gonna marry the witch maiden. I feel it in my soul because she's young and beautiful.
But didn't it say that she does something to be young and beautiful?
So?
Yeah, but in the
Oh, you're saying so she doesn't come to the spring and wash her face to stay young. She's gonna turn to dust.
Singing to a fucking flower.
I feel like this is actually a lot less work. Just gotta remember to come to the spring once a month and wash your face. I would just live at the spring. I just set up my house there. So then whenever I went, I would still have to come home, So the youth immediately resolved to follow the birds to the spring. Only 2 things made him uneasy. First, lest he might be asleep when the birds went, and secondly, lest he might lose sight of them, since he had not wings to carry him along so swiftly. He was too tired to keep awake all night, yet his anxiety prevented him from sleeping soundly. Same. And when the earliest dawn he looked up to the treetop, he was glad to see his feathered companions still asleep with their heads under their wings. Wait, so he did fall asleep?
Kinda, but it said
No,
that
it said
struggled to
oh, yeah.
sleep.
He ate his breakfast and waited until the birds should start, but they did not leave the place all day. They hopped about from one tree to another looking for food all day long until the evening, when they went back to their old perch to sleep. The next day the same thing happened, but on the third morning one bird said to the other,
Today we must go to the spring to see the witch maiden wash her face.
They remained on the tree till noon. These are some lazy birds. Then they flew away and went towards the south. The young man's heart beat with anxiety lest he should lose sight of his guide, but he managed to keep the birds in view until they again perched upon a tree. The young man ran after them until he was quite exhausted and out of breath, and after 3 short rests the birds at length reached a small open space in the forest, on the edge of which they placed themselves on the top of the high tree. When the young youth had overtaken them, he saw that there was a clear spring in the middle of the space. He sat down at the foot of the tree upon which the birds were perched, and listened attentively to what they were saying to each other.
The sun is not down yet, said the first bird. We must wait yet a while till the moon rises and the maiden comes to the spring. Do you think she will see that young man sitting under the tree? Nothing is likely to escape her eyes, certainly not a young man,
said the other bird. Wink. No, okay. The bird didn't wink, but just know that I would have if I was the bird.
Will the youth have the sense not to let himself be caught in her toils? We will wait, said the first bird, and see how they get on together.
These birds are some nosy bitches.
Like, what else are they going to do with their life?
Anything else,
if I
honestly.
was a bird, I would follow
You'd be
around.
like, you know what? I want to see this witch lady wash her face.
Yeah, I'd be like sitting outside.
And then I think they know who the guy is. Okay, so they have to know he can speak their language, right?
Yeah.
So like, I think they're doing it on purpose. They're like, you know what? Look at that idiot. We should help. The evening light had quite faded, and the full moon was already shining down upon the forest, when the young man heard a slight rustling sound. Oh my gosh, she's gonna sing. After a few moments there came out of the forest a maiden, gliding over the grass so lightly that her feet seemed scarcely to touch the ground, and stood beside the spring. The youth could not turn away his eyes from the maiden, for he had never in his life seen a woman so beautiful. He's marrying her, Alex. I fucking know it. I know it in my soul.
They're gonna fall in love.
Without seeming to notice anything, she went to the spring, looked up to the full moon, then knelt down and bathed her face 9 times, then looked up to the moon again and walked 9 times round the well. And as she walked, she sang this song. Full-faced moon with light unshaded, let my beauty never be faded. Never let my cheek grow pale, while the moonlight is waning nightly. May the maiden bloom more brightly, may her freshness never fail.
Then that feels like some Tangled shit.
That was rough, man.
That was good. Bravo.
I didn't know where I was going the entire time. It was 100% improvised.
But, definitely Tangled stuff going on here. She's staying in brushed hair.
Plot twist. This is where they got the idea.
Probably, man.
Because I don't know
but
the
9
original.
times is weird. I don't like how
I think it's the Grimm story. I think of Rapunzel where he like gouged out the guy's eyes and stuff. I don't know it very well, but I believe they moved her to a desert, and this guy's like blindly trying to find her, but he finds her in the end. Okay, that prince gets her. Okay. Then she dried her face with her long hair, and was about to go away when her eyes suddenly fell upon the spot where the young man was sitting, and she turned towards the tree. The youth rose and stood waiting. Then the maiden said, You ought to have a heavy punishment, because you have presumed to watch my secret doings in the moonlight. No, she's like, now I gotta turn you into a frog.
She's like, you're not gonna be a bird.
She's like, you can speak their language, now you're one. Okay.
Right.
But I will forgive you this time, because you are a stranger and knew no better. But you must tell me truly who you are, and how you came to this place, where no mortal has ever set foot before.
How do you know I'm immortal? I can talk to birds, okay?
Right.
The youth
some power.
Yeah, okay. I got a little bit going. I drank this herb mixture, this herb Got
Good.
high with this Eastern magician for 3 days straight.
It was good.
I'm no longer a mortal. Okay? I've risen above the mortal plane. Okay, the youth answered humbly, "Forgive me, beautiful maiden. If I have unintentionally offended you, I chanced to come here after long wandering, and found a good place to sleep under this tree." "You lying son of a bitch!" "At your coming I did not know what to do, but stayed where I was, because I thought my silent watching could not offend you." The maiden answered kindly, "Come and spend this night with us. You will sleep better on a pillow than on damp moss."
Us?
Yeah, I think she's stealing souls, okay? Because she said, "May this maiden." So I think she takes a new body.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm guessing.
What happened to the creature from the beginning? Like,
The dragon?
yeah.
He's got to kill it, remember? He's got to find a ring, and she's the one who
Right.
knows where it is.
Right.
Yeah. Where did you get lost?
I don't
Did-
remember. I
You
just got so
hypnotized by the
birds.
dragon.
Oh my God.
The dragon. The dragon. You got so hypnotized by the dragon. I looked away for 3 seconds. You must have looked into its
The next
eyes.
thing I remember was bird.
The youth hesitated for a little, but presently he heard the bird saying from the top of the tree,
Go where she calls you, but take care to give no blood, or you will sell your soul.
So the birds know he can hear them.
Yeah.
They were freaking gossiping like this fool down there, and then they're like, don't give her
That's
no
how
blood.
friends are. They're friends. Friends
They're-
pick on each other.
Yeah, they're friends. So the youth went with her, and soon they reached a beautiful garden where stood a splendid house, which glittered in the moonlight as if it was built out of gold and silver. When the youth entered, he found many splendid chambers, each one finer than the last. Hundreds of tapers burnt upon golden candlesticks and shed a light like the brightest day. At length they reached a chamber where a table was spread with the most costly dishes. At the table were placed 2 chairs, one of silver, the other of gold. The maiden seated herself upon the golden chair, of course, is she a bad bitch? Okay, no, and offered the silver one to her companion. They were served by maidens dressed in white, whose feet made no sound as they moved about, and not a word was spoken during the meal. Afterwards the youth and the witch maiden conversed pleasantly together until a woman dressed in red came in to remind them that it was bedtime. The witch has bedtime. The youth was now shown into another room containing a silken bed with down cushions, where he slept delightfully. Yet he seemed to hear a voice near his bed which repeated to him,
Remember to give no blood.
The next morning the maiden asked him whether he would not like to stay with her always in this beautiful place, and as he did not answer immediately, she continued,
You see how I always remain young and beautiful, and I am under no one's orders, but can do just what I like, so that I have never thought of marrying before. But from the moment I saw you, I took a fancy to you. So if you agree, we might be married and might live together like princes, because I have great riches.
he's gonna be like, well, you're beautiful, so yeah, and then she's gonna be like, slit your wrist. And he's
Right.
gonna be like, a bird told me not to.
Like, I just have a weird feeling, and the bird flies up and pecks her.
Oh my god. And then the ring's in her eye socket. The youth could not but be tempted with the beautiful maiden's offer, but he remembered how the birds had called her the witch, and their warning I skipped a line, and their warning always sounded in his ears. Therefore he answered cautiously, Do not be angry, dear maiden, if I do not decide immediately on this important matter. Give me a few days to consider before we come to an understanding. Why not? Answered the maiden. Take some weeks to consider if you like, and take counsel with your own heart. And to make the time pass pleasantly, she took the youth over every part of her beautiful dwelling, and showed him all her splendid treasures. What? What?
I'm a bird.
You don't want to say?
Okay, when you were like dwelling, and then he was like took his hand, and was like,
I never said that.
oh, that's what I heard.
And took the youth over every part of a beautiful dwelling, and showed him all her splendid treasures.
Yeah, her treasures, like, you know.
Alex. Give help.
I told you I'm a pervert. You're like, you don't want to say it? No.
Okay. But these treasures were all produced by enchantment, for the maiden could make anything she wished appear by the help of King Solomon's signet ring. She has the ring.
Yeah.
Only none of these things remained fixed. They passed away like the wind, without leaving a trace behind. But the youth did not know this. He thought they were all real. So she's like, come into my room of clarinets, and there's just like a whole bunch of, and then when she shuts the door, they all vanish because they're not real.
Yeah.
All right. So this ring can make stuff appear that's not real. So he's gonna trick the dragon into thinking he's getting stabbed. All right, and then the dragon's gonna die. Yep. That's my new.
Go things up.
One day the maiden took him into a secret chamber. No, I'm joking.
You just saw his treasure.
Her treasures. Where a little gold box was standing on a silver table. Pointing to the box, she said, "Here is my greatest treasure, whose like is not to be found in the whole world. It is a precious gold ring." It is a ring, Alex. It's a ring. They can't see, but good. You do not want to know.
What was I talking about?
When you marry me. When you marry me, I will give you. Oh my god, I can't even go on. When you marry me, I will give you this ring as a marriage gift, and it will make you the happiest of mortal men. But in order, what? But in order that our love may last forever, you must give me for the ring 3 drops of blood from the little finger of your left hand. From his pinky finger. Got it. No one calls it the little finger, alright? The pinky finger.
I mean, you call your little toe.
It's the pinky toe.
Oh.
No.
Right. Pinky toe.
You're making me laugh. I'm literally crying
No,
over
this
here.
little piggy.
The piggy toe. Okay. When the youth heard these words, a cold shudder ran over him. For he remembered that his soul was at stake. He was cunning enough, however, to conceal his feelings and to make no direct answer. He's gonna give the bird's soul to the lady?
Do birds have souls? Well, these birds. Oh yeah.
Well, according to the Bible, no animal has a soul.
Yeah.
So if he's a religious
and
man,
then what can happen is like.
and this
like,
is old times, so
like,
probably.
oh, I'm bleeding, man.
So he stabs himself.
No, he just gets bird blood on his finger, so it looks like he's bleeding.
And then the next day, when she sees no scab, she'll be like, you lying bitch.
My fingers don't scab if it's like a little prick, but they bleed.
Like when we gave blood, like.
Yes. There was no proof of my pain.
I know, honestly, same. But like, it hurt for like 4 days. I swear to God. I'm like, my finger's never gonna heal.
I was like, I can't touch anything.
Okay. Back to the story. To make no direct answer, but he only asked the maiden, as if carelessly, what was remarkable about the ring. She answered, "No mortal is able entirely to understand the power of this ring, because no one thoroughly understands the secret signs engraved upon it. But even with my half knowledge, I can work great wonders. If I put the ring upon the little finger of my left hand." So this is King Solomon's ring, is what it says, right?
Yeah.
But it fits on her pinky finger.
Yep. Well,
how big was King Solomon's hand?
She didn't say that it was small.
So she's got fat fingers?
No, I'm saying
she's got some porky fingers.
Who said it fit? Like,
oh, so it's just loose?
I mean,
on her? Oh, I guess. Okay. That explains why she's not wearing it. Because it's probably loose, but to do the magic, she has to wear it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then I can fly like a bird through the air wherever I wish to go, which is why she can just stop singing. which is why she's never in one place, because she can fly. with the ring. Stop. If I put it on the third finger of my left hand, I am invisible. Is this the
middle
origin?
finger?
No,
What?
third finger. Your
1,
third
2,
finger.
3.
Your ring finger. Your thumb's not a finger. Stop counting your thumb. It's your thumb. I'm thinking we're hearing the origins. I think we're hearing the origin story of the Lord of the Rings.
Alright, middle finger, invisible. Got it.
No! Ring finger! I like how you
Ring
flipped
finger.
me off for it, though. You're like, fuck you, I'm invisible.
Got it.
Got it, okay. Where am I? Okay, third finger of my left hand, I am invisible, and I can see everything that passes around me, though no one can see me. Stop. Okay. I'm freaking lost because of you. Okay. If I put the ring upon the middle finger of my left hand, then neither fire nor water nor any sharp weapon can hurt me.
So
like-
that's just a giant fuck you to the world.
So yeah, it literally
Fuck
is.
you fire, fuck you water, fuck you fucking
The
knife.
Salem witches could have used that ring. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Left hand, middle finger. Okay. If I put it on the forefinger of my left hand, yep, good job, Alex. You know your favorite forefinger. Then I can, with its help, produce whatever I wish. I can, in a single moment, build houses or anything I desire. That's why the maidens don't make any noise.
What?
They're not real.
Mhm.
Those maidens who were serving them, they were walking without making a sound. She made them with the ring. That's what I'm thinking. That's my next one. Finally, as long as I wear the ring on the thumb of my left hand, that hand is so strong that it can break down rocks and walls.
Just that hand?
Yes.
But like, if she punches something, you think like.
No. Because maybe I think it's shock resistant. So so it's fine. Okay. Besides these, the ring has other secret signs, which, as I said, no one can understand.
What do you think happens when she wears them?
She doesn't know because she can't read it. Pay attention.
But what if she just tries it out?
Tries it out, she melts.
Well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be messing around with this ring. Okay? No doubt it contains secrets of great importance. The ring formerly belonged to King Solomon, the wisest of kings. Was King Solomon the one who the lady said, that's my baby? And the girl's like, that's my baby. And he's like, we will cut the baby in half. And the one who was the actual mother was like, she can have the baby because she wanted her baby to live. Whereas the one who wasn't the mom was like, okay, I'll take half the baby. And he gave it to the real mother because obviously the real mother wouldn't want to cut the baby. Was that King Solomon?
I don't know.
Alex, you're
What?
supposed to know something.
I know my phone's not with me, so I can't look it up.
King Solomon. I'm googling this. Oh, yep. He's the baby king. He's the baby king. See? All done. We figured it out. When the youth heard all this, he determined to try and get possession of the ring. Though he did not quite believe in all its wonderful gifts, he wished the maiden would let him have it in his hand, but he did not quite like to ask her to do so. And after a while she put it back into the box. A few days after, they were again speaking of the magic ring, and the youth said, I do not think it possible that the ring can have all the powers you say it has. Then the maid opened the box and took the ring out, and it glittered as she held it like the clearest sunbeam. She put it on the middle finger of her left hand and told the youth to take a knife and try as hard as he could to cut her with it, for he would not be able to hurt her. He was unwilling at first, but the maiden insisted. Then he tried, at first only in play, and then seriously to strike her with the knife. How do you try to stab someone?
My main question is,
Kinky. Oh, go ahead. What?
if her ring finger could make her invisible, why wouldn't she just do that?
Just stay invisible forever?
You can take it off.
But why? Why would just do that?
Because it would then prove that the ring can do something. Instead, she's like, stab me.
That's more dramatic. She's dramatic. Okay, she doesn't
More
She doesn't
kinky.
play around. Oh, oh, okay. Where am I? Seriously to strike her with a knife, but an invisible wall of iron seemed to be between them, and the maiden stood before him laughing and unhurt. Then she put the ring on her third finger, and in an instant she had vanished from his eyes.
Good.
Presently she was beside him again, laughing and holding the ring between her fingers. Do let me try, said the youth, whether I can do these wonderful things. The maiden, suspecting no treachery, gave him the magic ring.
Puts it on the
The
ring
youth
finger
pretended
once.
to have forgotten what to do, and asked what finger he must put the ring on, so that no sharp weapon could hurt him. Oh, the middle finger of your left hand, the maiden answered, laughing. She took the knife and tried to strike the youth, and he even tried to cut himself with it, but found it impossible. Then he asked the maiden to show him how to split stones and rocks with the help of the ring. So she led him into a courtyard where stood a great boulder stone. Now, she said, put the ring upon the thumb of your left hand, and you will see how strong that hand has become. The youth did so, and found to his astonishment that with a single blow of his fist the stone flew into 1,000 pieces. Then the youth bethought him that he who does not use his luck when he has it is a fool, and that this was a chance which once lost might never return. So while they stood laughing at the shattered stone, he placed the ring, as if in play, upon the third finger of his left hand. Now, said the maiden, you are invisible to me until you take the ring off again. But the youth had no mind to do that. On the contrary, he went farther off, then put the ring on the little finger of his left hand and soared into the air like a bird.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, blah.
Oh, dang. Okay. When the maiden saw him flying away, she thought at first that he was still in play, and cried, Come back, friend, for now you see I have told you the truth. But the young man never came back.
No.
Oh, that would be a rough ending. No. Then the maiden saw she was deceived and bitterly repented that she had ever trusted him with the ring.
I'm gonna say that.
No, he'll be back. He's coming back. It says he never came back, but the bitch came back.
He'll be back.
Yeah, he's gonna be. He's coming back.
That just shook me so much.
I think the song's the cat.
I thought it was the duck.
No,
then
it's
he
the
walked
cat
away.
came back. I'll show it to you. Like they try to kill this cat, but every single time he comes back the next day. It's a ridiculous song. It's like a children's song too. Okay. The young man never halted in his flight until he reached the dwelling of the wise magician who had taught him the speech of birds. The magician was delighted to find that his search had been successful, and at once set to work to interpret the secret signs engraved upon the ring. But it took him 7 weeks to make them out clearly. Then he gave the youth the following instructions how to overcome the dragon of the north. You must have an iron horse cast, which must have little wheels under each foot. You must also be armed with a spear 2 fathoms long. How long is that? Which you will be able to wield by
I know
means
that one.
of the magic ring.
1/5 of
Oh!
the
Okay. Means of the magic ring upon your left thumb. So he needs super strength to wield this long spear. The spear must be as thick in the middle as a large tree.
That doesn't sound like a spear.
It said only his hand or his arm becomes strong. So, like, strong enough to lift a tree? Okay. And both its ends must be sharp in the middle of the spear. You must have 2 strong chains, 10 fathoms in length. I thought you were raising your hand at first.
No,
like,
just
yes.
imagine holding a large ass tree.
You gotta suitcase it.
But it's a spear, so like you throw spears, right?
You suitcase it, then you like roll it up, and then just.
Right, because your right arm can apparently do jack shit right now.
That was my right arm, so I hope he's lifting it.
Right.
I'm lost. Okay, I'm at the top. The spear must be as thick in the middle as a large tree, and both its ends must be sharp. In the middle of the spear, you must have 2 strong chains, 10 fathoms in length. As soon as the dragon has made himself fast to the spear, which you must thrust through his jaws, you must spring quickly from the iron horse and fasten the ends of the chains firmly to the ground with iron stakes, so that he cannot get away from them. After 2 or 3 days, the monster's strength will be so far exhausted that you will be able to come near him. Then you can put on Solomon's ring upon your left thumb and give him the finishing stroke. So pretty much just leave it on your thumb, bro, because it says left thumb, left thumb. You never change it. He's just assuming you're going to move it around. And give him the finishing stroke. But keep the ring on your third finger until you have to come close to him, so that the monster cannot see you. Else he might strike you dead with his long tail. But when all is done, take care you do not lose the ring, and that no one takes it from you by cunning. The young man thanked the magician for his directions, and promised, should they succeed, to reward him. But the magician answered, I have profited so much by the wisdom the ring has taught me, that I desire no other reward. Then they parted, and the youth quickly flew home through the air. After remaining in his home for some weeks, he heard people say that the terrible dragon of the north was not far off, and might shortly be expected in the country. The king announced publicly that he would give his daughter in marriage. No, I want him to be with the witch.
Oh.
The daughter in marriage, as well as a large part of his kingdom, to whosoever should free the country from this monster. The youth then went to the king and told him that he had good hopes of subduing the dragon, if the king would grant him all he desired for the purpose. The king willingly agreed, and the iron horse, the great spear, and the chains were all prepared as the youth requested. When all was ready, he found that the iron horse was so heavy that 100 men could not move it from the spot. So the youth found there was nothing for it but to move it with his own strength by means of the magic ring. The dragon was now so near that in a couple of springs he would be over the frontier. The youth now began to consider how he should act, for if he had to push the iron horse from behind, he could not ride upon it as the sorcerer had said he must. But a raven unexpectedly gave him this advice. Ride upon the horse, and push the spear against the ground, as if you were pushing off a boat from land. The youth did so, and found
that's
that...
your raven voice?
What's your raven voice?
I feel like the ink.
Okay, let me try it again. Ride upon the horse, and push the spear against the ground, as if you were pushing off a boat from land. Better? The youth did so, and found that in this way he could easily move forward. The dragon had his monstrous jaws wide open, all ready for his expected prey. A few paces nearer, and man and horse would have been swallowed up by them. The youth trembled with horror, and his blood ran cold, yet he did not lose his courage. But holding the iron spear upright in his hand, he brought it down with all his might right through the monster's lower jaw. Then, quick as lightning, he sprang from his horse before the dragon had time to shut his mouth. A fearful clap like thunder, which could be heard for miles around, now warned him that the dragon's jaws had closed upon the spear. When the youth turned around, he saw the point of the spear sticking up high above the dragon's upper jaw, and knew that the other end must be fastened firmly to the ground. But the dragon had got his teeth fixed in the iron horse, which was now useless. The youth now hastened to fasten down the chains to the ground by means of the enormous iron pegs which he had provided. The death struggle of the monster lasted 3 days and 3 nights. In his writhing, he beat his tail so violently against the ground that at 10 miles distance the earth trembled as if with an earthquake. When he at length lost power to move his tail, the youth, with the help of the ring, took up a stone which 20 ordinary men could not have moved, and beat the dragon so hard about the head with it that very soon the monster lay lifeless before him. You can fancy how great was the rejoicing when the news was spread abroad that the terrible monster was dead. His conqueror was received into the city with as much pomp as if he had the mightiest of kings. The old king did not need to urge his daughter to marry the slayer of the dragon. He found her already willing to bestow her hand upon this hero, who had done all alone what whole armies had tried in vain to do. In a few days a magnificent wedding was celebrated, at which the rejoicings lasted 4 whole weeks, for all the neighboring kings had met together to thank the man who had freed the world from their common enemy. But everyone forgot amid the general joy that they ought to have buried the dragon's monstrous body, for it began now to have such a bad smell that no one could live in the neighborhood, and before long the whole air was poisoned, and a pestilence broke out which destroyed many hundreds of people. In this distress, the king's son-in-law resolved to seek help once more from the Eastern magician, to whom he at once travelled through the air like a bird by the help of the ring. But there is a proverb which says that ill-gotten gains never prosper, and the prince found that the stolen ring brought him ill luck after all. The witch maiden had never rested night nor day until she had found out where the ring was. As soon as she had discovered, by means of magical arts, that the prince in the form of a bird was on his way to the Eastern magician, she changed herself into an eagle and watched in the air until the bird she was waiting for came in sight.
Wait, the raven was flying?
No. The witch.
The prince? Well, who was flying? Who was she trying to get?
The prince. Which is the same guy who's been throughout the whole story.
Yeah. So how did she change? I thought she changed with the ring.
She changed with the ring as well, but she's also a witch. So I feel like she could also just do it. She changed herself into an eagle and watched in the air until the bird she was waiting for came in sight. For she knew him at once by the ring which was hung round his neck by a ribbon. Then the eagle pounced upon the bird, and the moment she seized him in her tail, and she tore the ring from his neck before the man in bird shape had time to prevent her. Then the eagle flew down to the earth with her prey, and the two stood face to face once more in human form. "Now, villain, you are in my power," cried the witch maiden. "I favored you with my love, and you repaid me with treachery and theft. You stole my most precious jewel from me, and do you expect to live happily as the king's son-in-law? Now the tables are turned. You are in my power, and I will be revenged on you for your crimes." Forgive me," cried the prince. "I know too well how deeply I have wronged you, and most heartily do I repent it." The maiden answered, "Your prayers and your repentance come too late, and if I were to spare you, everyone would think me a fool. You have doubly wronged me. First you scorned my love, and then you stole my ring, and you must bear the punishment." With these words she put the ring upon her left thumb, lifted the young man with one hand, and walked away with him under her arm. This time she did not take him to a splendid place, but to a deep cave in a rock, where there were chains hanging from the wall. The maiden now chained the young man's hands and feet so that he could not escape. Then she said in an angry voice, "Here you shall remain chained up until you die. I will bring you every day enough food to prevent you dying of hunger, but you need never hope for freedom any more." With these words she left him. The old king and his daughter waited anxiously for many weeks for the prince's return, but no news of him arrived. The king's daughter often dreamed that her husband was going through some great suffering. She therefore begged her father to summon all the enchanters and magicians, that they might try to find out where the prince was and how he could be set free. But the magicians, with all their arts, could find out nothing, except that he was still living and undergoing great suffering. But none could tell where he was to be found. At last a celebrated magician from Finland, this is the first actual place mentioned, was brought before the king, who had found out that the king's son-in-law was imprisoned in the east, not by men, but by some more powerful being. The king now sent messengers to the east to look for his son-in-law, and they by good luck met with the old magician who had interpreted the signs of King Solomon's ring, and thus was possessed of more wisdom than anyone else in the world. The magician soon found out what he wished to know, and pointed out the place where the prince was imprisoned, but said, "He is kept there by enchantment, and cannot be set free without my help. I will therefore go with you myself." So they all set out, guided by birds, and after some days came to the cave where the unfortunate prince had been chained up for nearly 7 years. Rough. I'd say he served his time. He recognized the magician immediately, but the old man did not know him. He had grown so thin. However, he undid the chains by help of magic, and took care of the prince until he recovered and became strong enough to travel. When he reached the home, he found that the old king had died that morning, so that he was now raised to the throne. And now after his long suffering came prosperity, which lasted to the end of his life, but he never got back the magic ring, nor has it ever again been seen by mortal eyes. Now, if you had been the prince, would you not rather have stayed with the pretty witch maiden?
How did they so easily get him
out? The magician was magical. I look how it ended in a question. Wouldn't you have rather stay with the witch maiden?
But just because
I told him he should have, that dumb idiot.
No, just because he's a magician, he was there.
No. She said she'd come back to make sure to feed him so he didn't die of hunger.
So she just.
Yeah, he stays there by himself. Can you imagine being stuck in a cave for 7 years and your only visitor hates you?
I would just refuse to eat it.
You know, like, you know what? I'm just gonna fucking die.
I mean, 7 years? Like, what the hell?
I would have lost hope, honestly. But she's magic, so maybe she's like force feeding him. I don't know.
Oh.
So, what do you think, Beauty or Beast? I liked it too. So
It was
almost the
pretty
same
good.
baby. Yeah, I know. This story had a solid story, but then again, it was way longer than the other one. So
True. I liked it. I feel as though it had a lot. I don't know. Just entrapped me more in the story.
yeah, except for the fact that she forgot he's looking for a ring after the birds
That's how
talk.
entrapped I was.
Kid like birds.
I think I checked.
All right.
Okay. So tune in next week to hear us read from the Orange Fairy book.
Yes.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.